If you aren't doing novations in 2026, I promise you, you are leaving money on the table. And if you are already doing them, I can almost guarantee that you're not pitching them the right way, especially if you are getting objections like, why don't I just list this with a realtor, or why can't I just do this myself? So in today's video, I'm going to be going over exactly how to pitch novations like a six-figure wholesaler. So that way you can implement this process into your business and be able to do these as well. If you're new to this channel, all we do here is we talk about how to get individual wholesalers to 6 figures per month. And then from there, how do you actually train your team so you can run a multiple 7-figure business? And if you're already subscribed, welcome back. I promise you, you are going to love this one. So I'm going to share a Miro board and we're going to talk about how to actually prevent the objections like, hey, I need more money. I'm going to go list it on the market myself, or I don't like the time frame, all the objections that you would get from pitching a novation. And so just like any objection handling process or an objection prevention process, the way to handle them is to get in front of it in the first place. Now there's 3 main objections that come up when you're pitching a novation. The first one is obviously money. The second one is going to be time. And then the last one is convenience. So people either work with you or don't work with you when you're pitching a novation based on these 3 things. And you need to handle these individually. Otherwise, you're going to get blasted with objections at the end. So what we're going to do is we're going to pitch our cash offer just like normal. We'll say, hey, it looks like the best offer you can get is $436,500. That being said, is that enough for you to be able to, and then repeat back what they are after. Now, after that, typically we're only going to pitch a novation if the seller says no. And so what we're going to do is we're going to break down their bottom dollar needs. If that's not enough, what did you actually need in your pocket to be able to make that happen? And we're going to keep getting them lower and lower and lower until we feel comfortable moving into our novation process. The way we start our novation pitch is like this. We say, well, look, I'm not sure that we're going to be able to help, but I really want to try. Now, we do have another program. We don't do these all the time because they take a lot of work from us. And quite frankly, we just don't make much money on them. And honestly, I didn't bring it up because I wasn't entirely sure that you would like it. What they're going to say is, okay, well, hold on. What is the program? We want them to get curious about it. From there, we say, now there's typically 3 main components of a sale. There's 3 main things people are looking for when they work with us. It's the money, the time, and the convenience. That $435,000, you're not flexible on that at all. Is that right? Now, what I'm doing here is I'm using whatever their bottom dollar was. They said like, oh, maybe I would take $435,000. Or let's say they said, maybe I would take $445,000. So I'm going to say that $445,000 that you mentioned, you're not flexible on that at all. Is that right? They're going to be like, well, what do you mean? I mean, like if all the offers came back and we were able to come at 440, would you still be able to do XYZ? What I'm doing first is I am trying to lock them down at the lowest possible price. And so this is the money category. I need to lock them down on the money. And so if they say, well, 440 I could do, but I can't go any lower than that. Okay, but you're 100% good. If we could do the 440, you would be good with that. You'd be ready to move forward. They're like, yeah, I'd be ready to move forward. So I'm going to lock them down on that. Now let's talk about the time frame. The time frame is the next part of this. So what I'm going to do with the time frame is I'm going to use something that they said earlier in the call to help me. So a lot of times the seller will say, well, I'm not in a huge rush. If they ever say anything like that, I use that in my novation pitch. So I'll say, yeah, you said you weren't in like a huge rush, right? They're like, no, I'm not in a huge rush. They will say that because if they say they are in a huge rush, they're going to sound desperate. So a lot of times they'll give that to you. If they don't, you can still go into this process. You say, so, I mean, let's say that we could get you the 440. Would you give us an additional 30 days to be able to make that happen? Or would you be completely opposed to giving us another 30 days to make that happen? The reason I like to use the word completely opposed is it's easy for the seller to say no. The seller wants to say no when they're in objection handling. So, hey, would you be completely opposed to giving us just an additional 30 days to make that happen? Well, no, I'm not completely opposed to that. And if they said that they're not in a rush at the beginning of the process, it makes it that much easier. So then I'll go, okay, so the 440 you're good with. If it took us 60 days, you'd be good with that too. Yeah, I'm good with that. And so we want to lock them down on those 2 things. So far, we've got them down on the price, and then we've also got them locked in on the time. Okay, we want to make sure we lock them down on the time. The last part of this is going to be the convenience, right? A lot of times people reach out to us because they don't want a bunch of people in and out of their house. They don't want, their open house every single weekend and all these photos and things like that. So we have to crush this one very subtly as well. And so what we'll do is we'll say, first our transition. Well, if you're good with the 60 days, you're good with the time frame. I mean, we could make something work. My only concern is usually when we buy the properties ourselves, we'll walk through the house 1, maybe 2 times. I mean, however, if we're going to try to get you the absolute top dollar, get you all the way up to that $440,000 mark, would you be completely opposed to allowing us access access maybe 4 to 5 more times. Well, no, I'm not completely opposed to that. Well, what do you mean? Usually when we do our walkthroughs, we walk through it once at the beginning to inspect the property and once at the end. However, if we're going to get you that absolute top dollar price of that 440, we're going to need to get some of our retail buyers in there as well. Some of them will be accompanied by agents, but this will give us the best shot of being able to get you that price. Now, I'm not sure if we can get you qualified yet, but if we could, would you be opposed to giving us another 5 to 6 showings? No, I don't. I'm not opposed to that. I don't really care as long as I can get that price. And what I'll do there is I'll say, okay, so it sounds like you don't really care how you get it. You just want to make sure that you get that $440,000 price. Yes, that's all. Okay, so those are our 3 steps. Now let's talk about how to actually pitch it, because so far we've overcome the money objection, we've overcome the time objection, and we've overcome the convenience objection. The last thing is making sure they don't hit you with, what's the difference between this and just listing it on the market? And the way that we handle that is we tell them the differences before we ever pitch. And so what we'll do is this. We'll say, so look, our other program, it's called our Market Max program. Essentially, you know how when you list the property on the market, they give you a price that they hope the property will sell for. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't sell, it's really no skin off their back. You have to have the house always move in ready and people coming in and out. Not to mention, the real estate agent's going to lock you into a 6-month agreement, and they're going to get a commission whether they brought the buyer or you brought the buyer. You're familiar with how all that works, right? Now, the reason I want to say it like that, you're familiar with how all that works, right? Because even if they aren't familiar with how that works, they're going to say, oh yeah, I'm familiar. And if they are familiar with how that works, I'm not insulting their intelligence, right? I'm just saying, yeah, you already know how all that works, right? Yes, I understand how that works. Now, this next line is very important. So our program is the exact opposite of that. What we do here is we have an entire team that's dedicated to your property. They are going to be cold calling and outbound dialing hundreds of buyers, making sure we find the best buyer for you. Oh, and we could put the property on the market. We don't charge you a penny for that. And the best part is, instead of a 6-month agreement, you would get the money in your pocket in just 60 days. Now, again, I'm not sure that the property would qualify, but what I could do from here is I could send this up to my team, see if it is something that they would want to take on. And if we can, I can start walking you through the next steps. Would that help from here? Or how would you like to proceed? So let's break down what we did there. What we're doing first is we're talking about how does a listing process go without just going into like an over informative pitch. Then we say, look, our program is the exact opposite of that. We're going to have an entire team that's dedicated to your property specifically. We can put the property on the market. We just don't charge you a penny for it. So we are letting them know that we could list it. Oh, and by the way, the best part is instead of a 6-month agreement like you would get with the agent, you would get the money in your pocket in just 60 days. And so I'm not sure that I would qualify yet, that I'm going to pull away. But what I could do from here is I could send this up to my team, see if I could get it qualified, and then I could walk you through the next steps. Would that help? And if you do all of this properly, the seller's already agreed to the price. They've already agreed to the 60-day time frame. They've already agreed to letting you do the showings. And then you've pre-handled how you are different than the real estate agent. So what ends up happening is a really smooth transaction after the close. Now, if you guys want the exact script that I just went over, step-by-step process to be able to lock up the novations, I have a school community with tons of scripts just like this. It's got our novation script. It's got our inbound, outbound script, cold calling script, foreclosure script, and weekly trainings with me where you can actually practice this stuff. So you guys can click on the link in the description to be able to get access to that. And if you aren't already subscribed to the YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe because we do new videos like this every single week. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, everybody.